Welcome to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. I'm your host, Shannon Ables, and whether you're listening on your commute, exercising, working in the garden, or sitting down with a hot cup of tea or a café au lait, thank you for tuning in. Let's get started. Welcome to the 243rd episode of the Simple Sophisticate. Today we're going to talk about mornings and making them magical, mindful, and a foundation for not only a great day, but attaining the success that you're seeking as you step into this new year, but also as you step into any point in this year, no matter when you're listening to this or where you are and what you want to achieve. But before I get to that, today's Petite plaisir is a video series or a film series that I came across a couple weeks ago. Thoroughly enjoyed one of the episodes. I'm looking forward to a few of the other ones just based on my interests, but I love going behind the scenes of how things come together, and this particular film or series of films just does just that. I'll share what I'm talking about at the end of today's episode, so be sure to stay tuned. But now to today's topic. We're talking about mornings and the power and the magic ultimately which really isn't magic, but I say magic because sometimes it's hard to believe that this small part of our day that happens every day can hold so much weight and influence over the quality of our entire day. But it does. So I'm going to share with you 12 ways to make our mornings magical, mindful, and the foundation of a great day and a great success for where and what we want to attain or achieve. I want to begin with a quote from Hal Elrod and David Osborne. They state, "When you take control of your mornings, you take control of your days. You get to engage with the world under your terms. You can act instead of react." Reflect on those mornings for a moment in which you eagerly step out of bed, regardless of how early the hour. What was happening in that day? Most likely, it was something you're quite excited to enjoy or partake in. Or if you're like me, often my mornings, if they're really early, absurdly early, has to do with flying somewhere. And of course, it's very easy to jump out of bed to go wherever is on my plane ticket. Most likely it was something for you love to do as well, or felt fortunate to have the opportunity to be a part of. However, what if I told you that having such a day that you are so eager to get out of bed for actually begins with the reverse? It doesn't begin by creating something to look forward to, although that's helpful. It begins by cultivating mornings. Good mornings that will heighten the overall quality of your life, because a good morning is where you invest. A good morning is where you capture your ideas that are bouncing around, asking, wanting to be caught. A good morning is where your good mood begins and what you carry with you throughout the day. Now, it may seem or sound to be backwards, that no, I have to have a great day before I can have a good morning. But the truth is actually the reverse. It really does begin with designing amazing morning routines to create the day that you want. So how do you do that? Let's get into this list of 12 things to create a morning you love that will create that so-called magic. Number 1 is invest in yourself. Hal Elrod, the author of Miracle Morning Millionaires, reminds us the most popular personal financial advice is to pay ourselves first. Referencing compound interest, this premise correlates to tapping into our true potential and bringing it forth. He states, "Time is similar. Developing yourself is the most powerful tool in the world." End quote. Making the argument that our mornings each day are a boon of abundance of opportunity to leverage wisdom, productivity, and clarity in order to invest in ourselves. And based on my own experience and after reading his book, I would wholeheartedly agree. Let's break down how the mornings can indeed be a magical time of day to make the entire day awesome as well as contribute to the success each of us seek. So that's number one. This is an opportunity to invest in ourselves. So it's part of making our mornings as awesome as they can potentially be is a shift in our mindset, because a lot of the times mornings get a bad rap by those of us who are not used to getting up. Now, I have been someone, I will admit, I have always been someone who's gotten up early in the morning. I don't know how to explain why. I can break it down for myself, but I don't need to go on and on about my personal experience. I can say it's been something I've, for the most part, always done. Has it always been easy? No. But for whatever reason, it just has worked for me. I know that's not the case for everybody. It wasn't the case for these authors as they share in this book, but they did shift, they did change, and it made a tremendous positive difference in their lives and in so many other lives that they've researched. So number 2, give yourself time to ease into the morning. Here's a quote from Mary Beth Jansen. Wake up slowly. Make awakening a delightful ritual. We talk a lot about rituals on this podcast and in the blog. And morning rituals should obviously not be ignored. But how do we create a ritual in the morning that is delightful? Elrod shares in his book an acronym for specifically how to structure your mornings. He calls it the SAVERS. So S stands for silence, A for affirmations, V, visualization, E for exercise, R for reading, and S for scribing. Now I share that so that you can kind of understand his approach. While he breaks down this whole acronym in detail, after reading the book, as each of us will do should we read it, I began to interpret it for myself. I examined what I am currently doing that works and how it may fall into this structure in one way or another. Then I looked at it and said, okay, what am I doing differently? And what am I not doing? And asking myself then, why not? And do I want to consider tweaking my routine? There are aspects of this concept that I think are worth considering and utilizing. Depends on who you are and how you function. One detail that I feel is quite powerful to begin the day well is to ease into the day. I don't feel rushing helps. Having limited amount of time, so saying that we're going to get as much sleep as possible typically actually does not work. For some, waking up with a sense of ease, so easing into the day, might be silence, as is suggested by the book. This could be in the form of prayer, meditation, simply deep breathing, gratitude. It simply could just be laying there with your eyes kind of open, but not really, knowing you're not going to fall asleep, but just, yep, the day's about to begin. Here we go. It will look different to each of us. For others, it may be talking or snuggling with our partner or our pets. For me, it's easing into the morning is turning on my morning classical music station, as A Breakfast with Bach is always being played at 5:05 in the morning on the West Coast, which is 8:05 Philadelphia time, because I listen to WRTI.org, and I'll provide a link to that station. It's awesome. And that goes on for about 10 to 20 minutes. And I love that because I typically get out of bed at about 5:30, depends on the day. And that lets me ease into the day. Over the past year, I have found this practice to be gentle and not jarring, but something as well to ensure my mind begins dancing in the right direction to start the day well. So number 2 is give yourself time to ease into the morning. Number 3, drink 2 cups of water upon waking up, so 16 ounces of water. Before you go to bed each night, have a pitcher or carafe of water, similar to the one that I've shared just recently on the This and That. I will provide a link to it on the show notes if you're curious. But simply, have a nice glass or a goblet or a pitcher of water and a pitcher of water next to it, and bring that to your bed every night. Now, I have tried to make this ritual something I thoroughly enjoy, as well as because I need to do this. I have this beautiful goblet that a good friend gave to me. It's from France, and it can hold 2 cups of water in one setting, I guess you could say. And I bring it to my bedside, and the one thing I'm still going to add is an actual carafe once I have more room on my bedside table. But this particular cup works very well for the interim. And so it's something that's beautiful. It sets the tone, and it's something that will help end my day well and start my day well. While drinking water before bed is a good idea as well, as I mentioned, you will want to drink 2 cups of water upon waking up. Not only will this begin the process of cleansing your body of the toxins it has worked to rid from your system while you were sleeping, but it will hydrate you and then ultimately help wake you up. So that's another part of the ritual of easing into the morning that is worth considering. Drink 2 cups of water upon waking up. Number 4, shift your mindset about mornings. Here's a quote from Jeff Wise, the author of Extreme Fear, The Science of Your Mind in Danger. People do transform their lives every day. The key, it turns out, is to simply start behaving like the person you want to become. It may seem overly simplified to state, be the change you seek, but studies have proven this guidance to be true. In an article written for Psychology Today by the author I just mentioned, Jeff Wise, he writes, quote, act out the change you want, and day by day, the weight of evidence will become undeniable. Before long, the person you pretend to be becomes the person that you are, end quote. And while we should not take on too much change all at once, in fact, sound advice is to take one thing at a time that you want to change. But if the change you seek is to be able to wake up in the morning well and rested, be proactive and start going to bed earlier. Start understanding how the mind works regarding neural patterns and put helpful bumpers in place to make it easier for you to be successful at being the morning person you want to become. Your mindset, when it shifts to seeing the potential and magic that, when well done, of morning routines will enliven your eagerness to wake up, because this is the part of the day that you have the most control over, and as well have the most potential to improve your entire day. So number 4 is shift your mindset about mornings. Number 5, write down your thoughts. Elizabeth Gilbert wrote in her book, Big Magic, quote, when an idea thinks it has found somebody, say you, who might be able to bring it into the world, the idea will pay you a visit. It will try to get your attention. The idea will try to wave you down, perhaps for a few moments, perhaps for a few months, perhaps even for a few years. But when it finally realizes that you're oblivious to its message, it will move on to someone else. End quote. I share this for one big reason. Beside my bed is a notepad, small, nothing fancy, and each morning, as I am lying in bed listening to my classical music or simply in silence, when ideas pop up that I do not want to forget, because I have in the past, so I know that even if I say I swear I won't, I know they will be forgotten, I write them down. It's not a journal entry, it's not long, it's just the idea that popped into my head. And then I put it down. When I read Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic, back in 2015, and I did a podcast episode on this book, episode 70. If you haven't already listened to it, be sure to take a listen. I'll provide a link on the show notes. It resonated with me for a variety of reasons, but one was that we have within us so many treasures waiting to be discovered if only we would pay attention. And it is when we are quiet, the day is quiet, the morning is quiet, that we can best hear these ideas that may not make sense fully to us now, but it is important that we capture them when they present themselves to us. I personally often find that they come to me in the mornings when everything is quiet, when my mind has not been bombarded with the everything of the world. But it doesn't last long. And it may come back up again, but I want to make sure that I capture it. A very simple quote with regards to creativity and ideas was shared recently when I was doing my meditation with Headspace. And Addie Puttycombe said, creativity arises from silence and stillness. And our mornings, as we ease into them, offer this silence and stillness. Capture what it shares with us. All right, that's number 5. Write down your thoughts. 6, become clear in your mind about your journey and desired destination. In other words, practice visualization. Here's a quote from Hal Elrod. Many people don't feel comfortable visualizing success and are subconsciously scared to succeed. Consider that the greatest gift you can give to those you love and those you lead is to live to your full potential. The goal with visualization and pairing that with being mindful and making your intentions clear is to change your subconscious. When you shift your mindset, this can be done through affirmations, spoken or written, and then pair it with gaining clarity about what you're striving to create or become or do, which is through visualization. You strengthen your motivation, overcome, quote, self-limiting beliefs as well as self-limiting habits such as procrastination, end quote, and make yourself available to attaining the success you seek. These are simple things to do. They break down in detail how to do them in Miracle Morning Millionaires. But the clarity, what is it that I am striving for? What is it that my patience that I'm putting into practice today with my willpower? What is it that I'm hoping to build, that will come into fruition? Write it down. Be honest. Don't worry and think, I can't do that. That's too big. Write it down. You will be amazed when you focus your attention on what you can do, because that will make it that much easier to say no to those things that will not support your success. So that is number 6. Become clear in your mind about your journey and desired destination, and look at it, write it down, whatever it is that you're doing that morning every single day. All right, I'll be right back after I introduce you to today's sponsor. LaCroix Sparkling Water is a healthy for you and naturally delicious effervescent beverage. Enjoy LaCroix Sparkling Water, a calorie, sweetener, and sodium innocent beverage with nothing artificial. LaCroix has 24 flavors, including newly introduced key lime, and they are confirmed to be derived from natural sources with the natural fruit essences. With its distinctive packaging, robust aroma, and natural essence, making LaCroix the innocent alternative for health-conscious consumers, there are now 6 LaCroix Curate flavors: pineapple strawberry, apple berry, cherry lime, kiwi watermelon, blackberry cucumber, and cantaloupe pink grapefruit. LaCroix Sparkling Water and LaCroix Curate Sparkling Water are gluten-free, vegan, kosher, and non-GMO, as well as environmentally friendly. Both LaCroix Sparkling Water and LaCroix Curate Sparkling Water are both available nationwide. For more information, join the LaCroix community on social media at LaCroix Water or check them out at www.lacroixwater.com. LaCroix Sparkling Water, a healthier alternative for you and your lifestyle. As we wrap up today's list, so we have 6 more items to talk about making your mornings this wonderful place, this wonderful foundation for creating a day and a life you love living, and that journeys toward the success you're seeking, as well as enabling you to enjoy the day itself. Number 7 is going to talk about something you've heard many times before, but I want to break down why it's so powerful. Number 7 is exercise regularly. At this point, you may feel this directive has been stated ad nauseum, but when it comes to our brain health and thus our overall health, and finally our quality of life, did you know that, quote, the best predictor of brain speed is aerobic capacity? Yep. Dr. Stephen Maisley, a Florida physician and nutritionalist, shares, quote, the average person going into a corporate wellness program, of which he leads, will increase brain speeds 25 to 30%, end quote. But why is it preferable to exercise regularly in the morning? First of all, the exercise need not be extremely strenuous. It simply needs to be regular. A short 7-minute walk, if that is all you have time for. But when we work out in the morning, we give ourselves an energy boost that we can carry with us throughout our day. We have to be honest, and I want to share how I go through this. It's not always possible to actually work out in the morning, depending on where you work, what time they need you at the office, and everything else that's going on with the weather, with the seasons, things like that. I, though, sincerely love working out in the mornings. I prefer it if I can do it. However, currently with my teaching schedule and the time we have to start school and be at the building, it is very difficult, as I like to exercise with my dogs, and I prefer not to walk in the dark. So with that said, I do walk, ski, take yoga classes, or paddleboard 5 to 7 days a week after school when school is in session. Otherwise, you'll find me working out in the mornings. The key is understanding the power and necessity of exercising regularly. When you find that, even if you do have to work out in the afternoons, you'll still find benefits to your routine. You're going to sleep well. It's going to really enable you to have a deeper sleep, and that is going to benefit you in the morning as well. So number 7 is exercise regularly. Number 8 is read, learn, and forever be a student. With many recommendations for how much we should read a day, the most important part is what you are reading. Read something that teaches you something, that deepens your understanding, stretches and challenges your mind, and asks you to broaden your perspective, improves your communication skills, which will improve your relationships, just as ideas. Active reading has also been proven to deepen comprehension of the content being absorbed, which involves annotating as you read. This is something that could be in the form of underlining, circling, making margin notes, summarizing in writing at the end of each chapter, etc. And do not feel as though you have to finish each book you start or read it in order if it's not a fiction book. Reading feeds your mind, and as you may have noticed in many of our points discussed today, it's the mind that will lead us to success if we become its master and care for it properly. In the morning, I personally prefer to read newspapers, articles I have saved from the weekend deliveries, or online life and science articles from my newspaper subscriptions. I also read a daily briefing each morning from my national newspaper to get caught up on the news. And depending upon your schedule, you might read a few pages from a book in the morning. Each of us, again, will be different as to what we want to read and when, but I usually keep my books for lunchtime reading or evening reading unless it's a research topic that I'm doing for the Simply Luxurious Life. Number 8 reminds to read, learn, and forever be a student. Number 9, enjoy a delicious, satiating, energy-boosting breakfast. I have shared multiple times that I enjoy nearly the same breakfast each morning. I even produced a cooking show episode number 3 of the Simply Luxurious Kitchen around it, which I'll link on today's show notes. You can see what I eat, how to make it, and why I love it so much. And recently, at a book signing here in Bend, I shared that I actually wake up looking forward to my morning routine, especially my breakfast. I know it sounds silly, but I truly do find my breakfast delicious, filling, and I love it. So there's a little bit of a motivator to get up. I've created that little ritual. Along with what you choose to eat to begin your nutritional day, design a morning breakfast ritual that is inviting, fun, yes, fun, and contributes to the overall morning routine that helps you ease into your day with eagerness and clarity. Here is a glimpse of what is part of my morning breakfast, aside from the food itself. Again, I provide a link to all the recipes in the video on the show notes. First thing is, while the still oats, because I do enjoy still oats, are soaking for that 15 to 20 minutes, the boys and I will go outside for a mini walk just to say hello to the neighborhood. I then will empty the dishwasher if it needs to be tended to, pack my lunch for school if it's during the school year, and then while I'm enjoying my breakfast, I play the daily mini crossword puzzle from the New York Times, which is free, and then I'll read the daily briefing of the news from the day of the newspapers that I subscribe to. The boys also get to enjoy a breakfast treat, and then there's classical music filling the kitchen as I'm doing this. So that's just an idea of how you could create a ritual for your morning breakfast. Make it something you enjoy, but also satiating and delicious. Number 10, meditate. Perhaps your moment of meditation takes place as you ease into the day. So the very beginning of this whole morning ritual. I prefer to go through most of my morning routine and then following breakfast, once my mind and body are fed, sit down for morning meditation of 5 to 10 minutes. The calm moments I have leading up to this moment and then the actual moments engaged in meditation further solidify a positive tone that I wish to carry with me throughout my day. Now, I've written a detailed post on meditation, the benefits, and how to do it, and I'll provide a link to it on the show notes. If you want to just go immediately to it, simply go to the simplyluxuriouslife.com/meditate. So number 10 is meditate. Number 11, check in to make sure all is well with your business and view the plan for the day. This directive will be unique for each of us because it's going to depend on what work you do, what your daily life is like. But checking in can also include checking in with other people in your household. This is a time to check in with each other's schedules and check in with your own schedule. For me, this is when I check my email and make sure all is going well before I return to my office after my walk or after school, and I get started with my workday. I take a look at my daily schedule, remind myself of appointments, errands, etc. that need to be completed through the day. Another idea is to set 3 goals you want to accomplish for that day. Yep, just 3, and put them in order of importance. In other words, at the end of the day, having completed what these 3 tasks are, these will make you feel, in your mind, productive and satisfied. So only pick 3, put them in order, and that's your focus. If only one item is completed that particular day, make sure it's the item that's at the top of your list, and then move the other 2 that have yet to be completed to the top of the list for tomorrow. So that's number 11. Just check in and make sure everything's going well. Make sure you know what you're doing for the day and just kind of set yourself straight. Number 12 is to understand that waking up early is a skill. Believe it or not, once you are an adult, and I'm going to stipulate the difference between adults and adolescents, you create the habit that will make you either a morning person or not. On the note of adolescence, adolescent brains require more sleep, and actually they do fall asleep later than young children and adults, as their melatonin actually kicks in 2 hours later, which is what prompts them to fall asleep or feel sleepy. So it is biology that adolescents fall asleep later. Their bodies are made for them to fall asleep 2 hours later than what we're typically used to, which means they're going to sleep in or want to sleep in because they actually need more sleep anyway as their minds are still developing. But that's for adolescents only. The rest of us, we can create an environment for ourselves to go to sleep earlier and wake up earlier. If, for example, you have ever experienced jet lag, traveled or lived in a distant land, only to return weeks, months, or years later, you know that with time, you can adjust your circadian rhythms. But it does take time and conscious effort. The magic that our mornings can create will likely surpass what you believe could be possible. Our mornings become the springboard, the starting off point, and the more bounce we have, the higher we are capable of soaring. Here's one more quote from Hal Elrod. When you wake up with excitement and create a purposeful, powerful, and productive morning, you set yourself up to win the day. When it comes to cultivating a day and thus a life you love living, if you love the way your life is at this very moment and it's working for you, then keep doing what you're doing. But if you recognize that the way the day begins can be improved, or you feel you have more to give, if only you could restructure how you go about your day, or you just don't know what to do to improve the quality of your days and thus life, look no further than your mornings. It truly is that simple. I've included, as we wrap up today's episode, I've included more than a few posts and episodes from the archives that I think you might enjoy. Some of them have to do with more ideas for jumpstarting your morning. I've also included episodes about daily routines, so taking it from the morning and extending it throughout the day. As well, if you're looking to cultivate rituals, routines that elevate your everyday, I have more than a few chapters in my new book, Living a Simply Luxurious Life, that is dedicated entirely to that. So check that out. Another post and episode I include is how to have an amazing day in the middle of the work week and how to recharge from that midweek slump if you hit that. That'll all be on today's show notes, the simplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast 244. And I also want to share with you that I know some of you listen to this podcast on YouTube. YouTube is changing some of its policies. I was just alerted earlier this last week. And no longer will this podcast be on YouTube beginning February 2019. Don't worry, we're still going to be here. So I've included a handful of links as to where you can subscribe or upload or download or listen to this podcast if you do listen to it on YouTube. Obviously, you have iTunes and Google Play, but you can also go to Stitcher and iHeartRadio and Spotify, or you can come right here to the blog, thesimplyluxuriouslife.com. And every morning there's a new episode. You'll find it right there on the above the fold part of the blog. All right, I'll be right back with this week's Petite Plaisir, and I'll see you in just a few. Welcome back. This week's Petite Plaisir is a 6-series show. I guess you could say it has 6 different episodes, and it's called 7 Days Out, and it premiered on Netflix last month, so in December 2018. And it is basically a documentary for 6 different episodes of 6 different events, well-known events that take place, and as you will see through the video, take an incredible amount of work and preparation. They go behind the scenes of the Westminster Dog Show. They go behind the scenes of the Kentucky Derby. They go behind the scenes with a NASA project. They go behind the scenes at a restaurant that's working to renovate and reopen. And the one that I've watched, and I highly recommend, I have a feeling a lot of listeners will want to tune into this one, is they go behind the scenes of a Chanel haute couture fashion show. So in Paris at the Grand Palais, you have the preparation for the haute couture show. I think it was just a year ago, 2 years ago. And it's during the winter season. So it's in January, which is, those haute couture seasons are just a few weeks away, which is fun. They're fun to look at. But you get to actually go behind the scenes into the ateliers and the process of the planning and the decor and the design. As we know, Karl Lagerfeld always comes up with amazing sets for his shows. And it's about an hour long. And I think if you're looking for a fun documentary to take you to Paris, but also offer insight into all that goes on in the fashion world for these shows, you're going to thoroughly enjoy it. Again, the series is called 7 Days Out. All 6 episodes are available on Netflix right now. And here is the trailer.
Every season, the Chanel Couture show becomes this enormous event. I'm not sure how they pull it off.
Deadline's probably not a very friendly word. But actually, when you're up against it, you produce your best work.
No second option. I know instantly what I want and what I don't want. I have a tight, precise concept, and I stay with it.
3, 2, 1, go!
You're 7 days out.
This enormous event.
The clock is ticking.
So as you can see, you can kind of hear that energy and the build up to what these events are, inspiring in not only the people that are behind the scenes, but those of us that watch these events on an annual basis for some of them, and for others, they're just huge events for that particular business or that particular exploration, as it might be. I'll provide a link on the show notes to simplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast 244. And I hope you've enjoyed this week's Petite Plaisir, where each week ideas are shared to make the everyday all the more enjoyable. Tune in at the end of each Monday's podcast where I'll recommend a book, a film, or a recipe. Anything that is a simple pleasure to satiate your sophisticated taste. Now, before I wrap up, I wanted to share 2 different things with you. First of all, I know I've mentioned it a few weeks ago on the blog, but I have not mentioned it here to the podcast listeners, and it might just be something you're interested in. I was on someone else's podcast in December. I was on Kimberly Wilson's podcast, Tranquility du Jour, to talk about my new book. It was her episode number 438, and I have provided a link to it on today's show notes if you'd like to listen. We have a fantastic conversation about making a fresh start, about women in society and chasing our goals. I think if you're interested in those 2 topics especially, you will want to tune in. I really appreciate Kimberly's time inviting me on her show. So that's Tranquility du Jour, episode 438. And I would also like to share a comment about the podcast that I recently received on Instagram. This was from Maggie, and she wrote, "Hi, Shannon. I recently found your podcast, and oh my goodness, I am obsessed. Ever since the new year hit, I've been having this calling to both embrace my inner French girl and go back to Paris. Your podcast is really teaching me how I can do that even from the comfort of my home in Canada. I just wanted to say thank you for the inspiration you're giving me and also to keep up the amazing work." Maggie, I want to thank you for sharing this with me. I deeply appreciate it. And I'm excited for you to get back to Paris. In the meantime, thank you for tuning in and have a great 2019. All right, everyone. Wishing you a wonderful week. And thank you, as always, for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. For more ideas and inspiration throughout the week, visit the blog, thesimplyluxuriouslife.com, or pick up my new book, Living the Simply Luxurious Life, Making Your Everydays Extraordinary and Discovering Your Best Self. You can also pick up my first book, Choosing the Simply Luxurious Life, A Modern Woman's Guide, which is available now in paperback, ebook, and audio versions on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes, or wherever books are sold. To stay caught up on the most recent episodes of the podcast, blog posts, my new cooking show, and receive exclusive news as well as an extra dose of inspiration to jumpstart your weekend, subscribe to the Simply Luxurious Life's weekly newsletter, which arrives in your inbox each Friday to enjoy with a hot cup of tea or a morning cup of coffee. Until next Monday, I'm your host, Shannon Ables. Bonne journée!